Is it on? Hi everyone! This is my first time going live on YouTube and I really have no clue what I'm doing. I hope you can hear me. Welcome! As I said in the community post, this is to celebrate reaching 10,000 subscribers, and I want to introduce you to a very special guest today. But first, let me just say that just this morning, YouTube notified me of something I didn't even know existed, and that is that I am eligible for chat stickers. Apparently, if you want, you can purchase chat stickers during this live event, and any of the money that comes in, I am planning to put towards a better camera. So that's just to let you know that that's available. As I said, I have never done this before. So I don't know if my internet is going to work well enough. I don't know if I even know what I'm doing when I try to respond to chats. I have a little learning curve here. I tried to do a test run yesterday, but being really truly live is different than a test run. So anyway, that's just a little bit of heads up. If something goes wrong, I'm very sorry. I'm trying to learn very fast. Welcome again, and I hope you enjoy this little event, celebratory event. And I would like to introduce you to my special guest today, who, as some of you guessed earlier, it is my friend whom I referenced in my introductory video, and actually my best friend and my husband, Vlad. Welcome.
Hi everyone. It's so amazing to be together finally, me with you face to face, because as Amy said, I was here all the time, but I was behind the camera. And of course I read all your comments together with Amy, and probably right now you're wondering, oh wow, really, best friend and husband, how does that work, and what happened, what's the story behind it? And maybe you're wondering how come that a musician is actually married with somebody who knows so much about rock music and yet she never listened to it. We decided that we are going to use this opportunity to tell you the whole story.
More of our story, so you get a better picture of who I am, how I ended up here, and this wonderful person, and how he ended up here.
She's the wonderful one.
And but first, I need to make sure I can see the chat messages, and I don't know how to do it.
Let's see.
I really have no clue. So we're going to take a minute and try to sort this out.
That's
This is all new.
okay.
Okay, now I can see everybody's messages. Okay. Let's just see. Oh yes, hello Vlad.
Right.
Let's
You did spell my name right. That's good.
Yes. All right. So many of you are here. That's exciting. Michael Luneberg says, I had a suspicion the mystery friend was a spouse. You were right.
Good.
You were right. So,
Okay,
where to begin?
I guess we should begin with the story that they already heard.
Yes, that would be a good idea.
The memorable phone conversation while in the airport, because and that took place before we got married, not too long ago though, and just for you to understand how did we get to this place and how much do I sympathize with those of you which wrote so many comments saying, what? You're a musician and you've never heard Queen or Pink Floyd? No, no, no. I fully sympathize with you. I agree with you because I went through the same shock. Just like Amy told you, I was in a phone conversation with her after spending many hours talking about music, especially Bach and Glenn Gould, and we were talking about singing and voice and opera. And while we were talking, of course, I was making connections in my mind, rock music and this classical musician, but she never said anything that she was not exposed to that sort of music. So, of course, immediately in my mind, hold on, Freddie Mercury, right? And Barcelona and Montserrat Caballé, right? And so I asked her, so tell me, I said, what do you think about Freddie Mercury, his voice together with Caballé in Barcelona? To which she said, who is Freddie Mercury? Well, I have to say that at first, the first thought that crossed my mind was that this must be a joke. But then knowing her, I knew that no. Amy is not the kind of person who makes this kind of jokes. So it was a moment of silence. I was trying to...
Literally, he was dead silent. We were on a
Yeah.
phone call, and it was a long moment of silence, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, am I supposed to know this person? Is he an opera singer? Have I just done something really embarrassing to myself, and exposed some grand ignorance in a field that I'm supposed to know?
Yes, and so thoughts were running through my mind, and then I eventually said, what do you mean, who is Freddie Mercury? And she said, yeah, I'm sorry. She said, I've never heard of, who is he? Well, I said, he's not anymore. He's dead in the first place. But I said, what, you've never heard of Freddie Mercury? So that was the beginning. I suddenly realized that this person who spent years and years and years and years in studying and digging deep into music never heard of Freddie Mercury. And then of course the next thought into my mind was like, okay, if you've never heard of Freddie, right? I mean, come on. Who is out there in the general public who never heard of Freddie Mercury? And then if she never heard of Freddie Mercury, what about the others? What about Pink Floyd? What about Metallica? What about Beatles? What about Bob Dylan? What about, and the list goes on and on. And we started this conversation, and immediately I realized she is looking to an amazing experience. She's looking to an amazing experience because, one, she is a trained classical musician, and if she will start listening to this music and give us her perspective, that would be beautiful. I'm not a musician. I'm not trained. I'm just a regular, passionate though, consumer. And so I thought, if she will start listening to tell us what she sees in this music, that would be awesome. But then second, not only as a trained classical musician, but also as a trained classical musician who have never been exposed. So I thought to myself, man, that would be awesome. It was just a thought in my mind. Of course, I didn't tell her back then, but I wondered, just like you did, how come? How come that she was never exposed to this kind of music?
Well, it's really not such a dramatic story or strange story, but it happens to be the way my life went and the way I grew up and my study background. first of all, before I go into that, I remember I've seen quite a few, maybe not quite a few, but several comments on the different videos saying, where is her accent from? And maybe that's a good way to kind of start this story. My family, both my parents, come...
You should speak louder because we don't have the mic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Both my parents come from families who, they have roots in California. And I was born in California. When I was very young, my parents moved to Maryland for a few years. Eventually, we moved back to California for some more years. And then in my early teens, you know, kind of, I don't know, 11, 12, we transplanted to Tennessee. And that was a big shift. Any of you who are from the U.S., familiar with the U.S., you will understand that there are some vast cultural differences in different parts of the country. And we were all very much foreigners. But, you know, it was interesting. And, well, it so happened that my family settled right in the middle of an Amish community. We were not Amish. We were never Amish. But we purchased property right in the center of an Amish community. And so my neighbors, my acquaintances as I was getting into my teens, my best friends were Amish. And so it was a completely different cultural exposure than, you know, maybe your standard American, although I hate to say there's a standard American because there is so much diversity here in this country, and it's possible to grow up in one part of the country and have a completely different experience than somewhere else, maybe just down the road, maybe across a state line, maybe on the other side of the country. So in all of that, that's kind of where my accent kind of got mixed up, I suppose, because California has a certain way of speaking, and that was what I had in my family. And then, of course, the Amish speak Pennsylvania Dutch. It's a sort of German dialect, and it has a very unique cadence and accent, of course, kind of German. And it was entertaining to me to see some of the comments asking, is she from Germany? And I guess maybe that's what you picked up. Of course, I also, living in the South here, I was exposed and became comfortable with the broader Southern accent, and while that's not my default, I easily fall into it when I'm in a group of people who are, you know, born and raised in the South, and sometimes I find myself just naturally saying, hey y'all, how are you doing, you know? Yeah. And it just comes out, but it never became my default. I guess I was old enough when I moved here that it didn't really become that deeply ingrained. So that's where my accent comes from. And that also kind of gets us started on this story of how did I grow up unexposed to this music? As I said in the first video, my family was very musically, had musical tendencies and musically passionate. It was all surrounding, you know, classical music and classical influences, and even though they were from California, both my parents' families had kind of rejected the whole hippie movement, so they weren't really involved. I don't even know, I haven't asked my parents, but I don't even know how much they are familiar with the music of the 60s, 70s, 80s. I have no idea, because we just didn't have it in the home. And then, of course, as a teenager, I had Amish friends, and they don't listen to music. They don't even use musical instruments. So I had this very unique setup. Well, it's true that I grew up in a musical environment. But the thing I didn't say in my introductory video, which I want to tell you now, is that my decision to study music seriously didn't happen until very late. I was already in my mid-teens by the time I had my first formal music instruction. And by that point, I knew what I wanted. I wanted to become a musician. Well, for those of you who are familiar with what it takes to become a classical musician, usually it starts way back in early childhood and you have lessons all through your growing up years and all of this. I didn't have that, and so I was kind of playing catch up for a while, and I knew that if I wanted this, I had to be completely dedicated and I had to immerse myself in the experience and just keep a focus. I didn't just want to learn one instrument. I was pushing myself to master the piano and harp, as well as study voice, and I wanted to become a music teacher. So that's essentially 4 different major fields of study. And if I, throwing myself into it that way, I was focused there. I didn't find time to go explore other musical avenues at that point in my life, when for most people it would be the most natural time to kind of branch out. But I had a certain goal and I was determined to achieve it. And that's how it went, So those of you who have studied music and are familiar with what it takes for a musician to reach a professional level, you know what I'm talking about. You know the undertaking I
Let me check here.
Yeah, let's just check and make sure that everything's good. So someone might say, "Oh, that's terrible. You missed out on so much." But I guess I see it differently. Because I feel like life has so many opportunities, and everyone comes from a different experience, and we all have something to bring to the table, which maybe somebody else doesn't have. We also have common points of connection, and so for me, my approach is, well, I have one life. Let me pursue what I love. Let me be as open and as broad as possible, but at the same time, let me be true to what is important to me. And so that's kind of the way I approached it at that time, and that's kind of still my approach because I don't have this modern music background. It's true. I have been exposed. I have studied more about jazz because that's such an integral part of classical training now, because so much of classical music has been influenced by jazz influences. And I guess rock music is kind of newer. It didn't come until the later part of the 20th century. So that influence is still very new in the classical scene. So that's a bit of my story. I want to make sure that you understand that my family didn't limit me. I was not restricted. I had internet access. I had those things, but I was focused on a certain goal. And that's what was my channel that I took at that time. Of course, the world of classical music is so vast. I could study it for 10 lifetimes and not run out of things of interest and importance. So even as a classical musician, I have areas of ignorance. That's just the way it is when you take on something as incredible as music that has impacted so many people all through the history of the world. And so I don't feel bad about having not been exposed before. To me, it's interesting, and I kind of relish this idea of being able to discover new music at this time in my life that is very different, very unfamiliar, and and to be fully aware of the experience as it's developing. Whereas perhaps if I had grown up with it, it would have been just something that I always knew. So again, I cherish the uniqueness of every experience that I come to. And then how did I end up here? Well, my life took a new, unexpected turn, completely unanticipated, and that's what gave me the nudge in this direction that I needed, just to say, hey, you should take notice of this music. And that all started when I met a new friend.
Yes, friends are always right. Friends are always so good for enriching our lives. True friends are always good for that. And actually, this is one of the mark of true friendships. With me, the experience was so different. I could actually say that it was exactly on the other end of the spectrum. Not only the experience itself, but the location, the environment, everything was so different. And so when we finally met, it was like two parts of each of one end of the spectrum coming together, and this, what you started to see in this channel, is one of the beautiful results. Well, probably as you could already tell by now, by my accent,
look, this is the question coming up. Where does
So,
your accent come from?
what does okay, yeah, my accent. So I was born, raised in Europe, in Eastern Europe, in one of the ex-communist countries. Now, within the Eastern Bloc, things were different from country to country. Some countries were more open, more liberal, while others were more tight. And for example, probably one of the most liberal countries was ex-Yugoslavia, right? But I was not fortunate to be born there, not even in Bulgaria, because man, Bulgarians, for some reason, they decided to give people music. Actually, they were producing their own vinyls and selling them. It was really amazing. Well, I was not born there. I was not born in Hungary nor Poland. Again, countries which were more liberal. I was born and raised in Romania. And if you know anything about that country, you will know, beside Vlad the Dracula, you will know that we have been under communists for a very long time, almost 50 years. And the dictator was very hard on us, really very hard. And everybody had to suffer from many different perspectives. But of course, we are now talking about culture, and especially music. It was almost zero access to, what's that?
Can you tell us about your experience about censored music behind the Iron Curtain? I guess.
Yes, I can, definitely. So let's start probably Romania. There you go, Adam Clark. So let me start with the beginning. My journey with music started the very day when they brought me home from the hospital. And that is because my father was a passionate about music, especially Beatles. Beatles was his love, definitely. Of course, all the others as well, Queen and Zeppelin and Deep Purple and so on and so forth, the Beatles. And so the day when they brought me home from the hospital was the day when I started to hear this music. So you see, I grew up with this music. So, but then of course, answering your question, you might wonder, okay, so how did your father get music? Where did he get the music from? Well, I remember, I have this memory in my mind, this picture in my mind. Sometimes when he was still in university, studying in Bucharest, in the capital city, sometimes he would take me with him. And I remember one night waking up, sleeping up in a bunk bed in this room full with students. And I woke up and I looked down and I saw all of them around this table, which was in the middle of the room, and they were listening to music. I remember this. My father had access to music because he spent many years in Bucharest in university. He graduated, he studied in different universities. And being there, he was able to get in touch with some foreign students which are coming from other countries. And of course, these students came and they brought music, the true music. I still remember the times when my father would come home in a weekend from Bucharest, and the first thing he would do, he would pull up this cassette tape and he said, saying, I have a new one. And oh boy, what do you think? I mean, everybody was there listening to music, exploring music. I remember every time somebody would come to visit us, they would sit down, listen to these songs, talking about the guitar, talking about this solo, talking about this lyrics, talking about this voice, talking about this arrangement. And I was there just a boy, you know, and I was just sitting there watching and listening and listening. I couldn't understand too much. Well, of course, I couldn't understand too much, but I was sucking in this music. As I said, we didn't have free access to music. So in the neighborhood where I was living, the other families, I don't know of anyone who was listening to music, literally anyone. So, of course, since my parents taught me from an early age that there are things that you're not allowed to talk about outside the home. And they were speaking especially about their view on politics and the fact that they were listening to this radio station, Free Europe, Europa Liberă, which was broadcasting from Western Germany in Romanian language, giving us the true news. So, and it was, of course, forbidden. You could easily end up in jail, and very bad if you would have listened to this radio station. And so I knew there are things I'm not supposed to mention outside of home. And somehow in my mind I had this idea that music, no, it's kind of somehow illegal or something. Although they never said specifically about music, but I never talked to anyone. Anyway, years passed, and I grew up with this music. I grew up with these voices. I grew up with Freddie Mercury. I grew up with John, Paul, George, and Ringo. I grew up with these instruments and the beautiful melodies. And so after a while, in my teens, the revolution came, and we broke free. And soon after that, I was in my late teens. I remember one day I was outside with some of the kids, where we were not kids anymore, some of my friends, and somebody mentioned that one of them started to listen to this weird music. And I said, what music? And he said, yeah, his name is Bogdan. His name is Bogdan. And he said, Bogdan started to listen to this weird music. It's called rock music. And when I heard, I said, really? Yeah. I said, I need to talk to him. I remember going straight to his door. He was living at the second floor. I went there, rang the bell. The guy came out, and I said, so-and-so told me that you're listening to rock music. And he said, yes. So I said, so do you know Beatles? He said, Beatles? No, he said, these are old. You should check out Metallica. And I said, Metallica? I've never heard of Metallica. Man, he said, you should check out Metallica. I said, where are they from? And he said, they're Americans. I said, really? Yeah, well, I said, where can I get this music from? He said, look, I have 2 of their albums. I have Master of Puppets and Justice for All. He said, bring me 2 blank cassette tapes and I will record them for you. I still remember that day. Yeah. I still remember when I got the tapes and I went back home. I also still remember 1992, please correct me if I'm wrong, 1992, Metallica released Nothing Else Matters. I remember that we found out that they're going to release Nothing Else Matters. And we found out that a Bulgarian radio station was about to broadcast the entire album when Metallica released it in US. It was nighttime in Romania in Eastern Europe. I remember all of us got these 2 blank tapes ready. I remember I had this mono radio cassette recorder, Philips. I put the cassette in, I set the radio to that particular station, and I was waiting. And when they announced it, I pushed record and play. And at the first half, I was ready to pull that out and put the other one in, just not to miss a note. Not to miss a note. Oh boy, these were beautiful times. And then years passed, you know, and music started to come in. I remember we had this tape cassettes which were made somewhere in Poland. And one by one, the albums started to come in. Those of you which are in Romania, maybe from Romania, maybe you'll remember this special place. There was a special place in Bucharest, La Coloane in Piazza Romana, right? It was a place where several people with tables, portable tables, and cassettes were there to sell. It was the only place in the entire country where somebody was selling rock music. So it was like a special place you could go, and of course they used to have this this player, and you could listen to music, right? And so little by little, I started to buy one by one the albums that I used to, you know, to listen to, but recorded many times poor quality. But now, oh boy, this quality! It was amazing. It was definitely amazing. Such an experience growing into this music, not only as a child, but then when little by little the music started to come on the market, buying and cherishing every cassette tape, sitting down with friends and having this experience, which all of us who are consuming music and are passionate about, we know, just to sit down and to listen together to music, to this beautiful music. It was beautiful. It was awesome. And so in a few years' time, no, it was 1 year later, I met this new friend, talking about friends and expanding horizons. I met this new friend. The way I met him, I noticed him immediately because he had a long hair. Long hair, you know, well, that's another topic, and that's another episode entirely, because you see, when the communists were kicked out and we broke free, I was still in high school, but the teachers were the same teachers. And I remember when I went to school with my hair long, and I remember the teacher, the French teacher, came to me and said, you will either cut that hair or you will not pass into the next year. And I said, wait a minute, what does my hair have to do with school? No, she said, either this or that. Well, maybe I'll tell you the whole story one day. I ended up moving to another school because I refused to cut my hair. But anyway, so I met this new friend. I saw him because just like me, he dared growing his hair long. And so, you know, we started talking, and he said, so tell me, what do you think about Pink Floyd? And I said, who is Pink Floyd? Oh, come on. I mean, what do you call this, ignorance? I don't know. Just call it whatever you want. But you see, all of us, we have our lives and our worlds. Every life is unique and every experience is unique. So after years and years growing into this music, I had no idea who Pink Floyd was, simply because my father was not into Pink Floyd music. And so he introduced me to Pink Floyd, and of course, the whole experience with digesting the wall and all the way through, you know, Wish You're Here and everything, culminating the entire experience with the final cut, of course. And then we're all yes, there you go. You have it, feral human. We were all virgins once, Vlad. That's so true. That's so true. And so, but something happened, and I'm curious if you ever had this experience before. I was listening to all this music and I was digesting. Well, it was not only that, right? Years passed and I got access to Iron Maiden and Megadeth and Sepultura and Obituary and Death and everybody, everything, right? So while I was digesting this music, I started to feel that I need something more. I need something more. And I didn't know what. Until one day, I was introduced to a different genre of music, which is called classical music. I was introduced to classical music, and I remember the first time when I listened to two monumental compositions, Mozart's Requiem and Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. I remember being in Finland, visiting somebody, and I saw that they had this music Sony tower. Man, what a sound, you know, speakers in it. Oh boy, anyway. And for the first time, I remember seeing this disc. I looked at it. It was a CD. Never saw a CD in my life. I looked at it. Man, what is this? And they said, yeah, it's a kind of a new invention. It's a CD, and you have all this music here. So all of a sudden, we didn't have this the big vinyls. It's the CD, and they had this big headphones. And I looked and I said, I saw there Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. I have to tell you about this, and you will understand why. I put the disc in. I put the headphones on my head. And I hit play. And if you know how this symphony begins, with the instruments coming gradually closer and closer, the volume increases until all of a sudden everything explodes. And when everything exploded, there was one word crossing my mind, and that was Metallica. That was it, Metallica. And I was fascinated. I listened through this symphony, all the way through. And at the end, I said to myself, this is impossible. Something like that cannot exist. This and Mozart's Requiem, I had this feeling in my mind, something like that is impossible to exist, that level of perfection. And so I started my classical music journey. Again, you have to understand, I am not a musician. Man, come on. I never studied music. I know nothing about music from a musician perspective. I'm just a passionate consumer. That's what I am. And so I started to grow in the classical music over the years. I had a hard time with Bach. Man, I couldn't digest Bach. I just couldn't. Everybody, I was reading Bach, the greatest composer. I couldn't until I met Glenn Gould. And Glenn Gould spoke Bach in my language, and I could understand it. So this is my background. Now you understand. This is my background geographically and musically. And that was her background geographically and musically. And then one day we met. And that over the phone discussion took place when I asked Amy, what do you think about Barcelona, Freddie Mercury? And she asked me, who is Freddie Mercury? Now, you understand my shock And now you understand that I understand your shock and disbelief when you heard Amy saying, I've never listened to this. Really? Where have you been? Where have you been? Well, I've been in my world just like you have been in your world, and I've been in my world, but this is what friends are for and the community is for.
Yeah.
And it's simply beautiful. So, yeah, right now, as she told you, we are married. We got married not long ago, and after a while, I decided to tell her about this idea that I had in my mind, about this channel and this experiment and this room where people can meet, can sit down, and can look to music, and they can share their perspective about this music from their own experience, unique experience. And I told her, look, we can do this and that, and I started to explain, and she was like, she said, that I'm an open person, and I would listen to anything. I mean, music, right? It's music and it's art, and I'm very open. But I don't know about doing this, and I said, listen, I said, she mentioned, of course, well, you all know, we all know how it is when you go public over the internet, right?
That was my hesitation.
Yeah, she was.
I really want to. I mean, yeah, okay, I could just listen here at home and
Have an experience by
that would be more
ourselves.
comfortable, so probably. It took a while, it took a little bit of talking for me to decide to do this on YouTube, in public, and it took a little bit of conversation to make up my mind.
It took a few weeks.
Yeah.
We were just going out for walks and we were talking and talking. And one of the things that indeed I told her, I said, look, you will see when you will get into this music, you will meet ladies and gentlemen. You will see that most of the people which are involved in this music are intellectuals, are people, some of them are entire encyclopedias. And not only that, there's nothing to be afraid of. You will enjoy this community. You will enjoy this community. And, well, of course she didn't know, but she trusted me because, well, of course she trusts me. And eventually she said yes. And it's true that probably 99%, maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but probably 99% of all the thousands and thousands of comments are just beautiful comments.
Speaking of comments, I see we got our first super chat sticker. Somebody,
Okay.
Tim West.
All right.
Congratulations on 10K. What do you think of harpist and singer-songwriter Joanna Newsom? Well, the truth is, I know the name, I've heard the name, but I'm not familiar with what she does. So I'll have to check that out, and maybe I can let you know what I think after I listen to her for a bit.
Yes, sure. We are planning to shoot some special videos with where Amy will sit down, will take time and answer the most relevant and of your questions. So definitely we will include this one on the list.
And thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Tim. Yeah. Well, probably you could see that we're using an iPhone. So and we have big problems with mics. Right now we don't have a mic at all. We had one. We had to set it in service. It's a tricky mic. Anyway, and reading your comments when you said, the sound here and the sound there. Check out here, the piano sounds bad. We know.
We know.
It was bad, and we're working on it. And this is what we are planning to do with the money that we will raise both here and in the coffee on the coffee page. We want to improve the equipment, especially for the sound, because we're here for music, right?
Yeah.
So coming back to the channel story, she finally agreed, and this community, all of you, you are just beautiful.
Yeah, you really are. And you've persuaded me that it's worth doing this here on YouTube with all of you. Because I was thinking, okay, let's try it. If it's not too great, I don't have to continue it. But I'm telling you, the response, the embrace, the enthusiasm, the welcome has been just astonishing, and I am loving it, and I so appreciate it. Another super chat coming in. Thank you, Pete C.
Pete C says, I will gladly add to your camera mic found. Thank you very much. Hopefully we will be able to do that upgrade sooner than later. It is true that I don't think I'm wrong saying that up to, probably not now, but up to yesterday, we went through all the comments.
Yeah.
All, literally all the comments.
Every single comment that has been posted.
Every single comment, and why?
Another super chat. You all are just amazing. We'll make sure we get you better sound as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Dunkler Kutcher. Thank you so very much.
Looks German.
Looks German. Right. So yes, we are reading, and we manage. At first, we were trying to respond to all the comments, but obviously, it was way too much for us to keep up with. But we are reading all the comments, and the comments are, you, through the comments, are creating this amazing room where we can sit down together and we explore music. With your input, the purpose of this channel is truly fulfilled, because our vision is this: everybody who enters here at Virgin Rock is both a teacher and a student. We are all...
That's all of us, you know, and I spent so much of my life in the wearing the teacher persona, you know, but at heart, before being a teacher, while being a teacher, really I feel that I'm a student. And my mom sometimes teases me because I'm always trying to, you know, explore something new, learn something new, sign up for a new course, this or that. She says, are you just going to be a perpetual student? Yeah, absolutely, as long as I live, that's what it's going to be. So many comments coming in here.
Yes, Michael Luneburg says, my contribution to the Tech Fund, so happy to have found this community. Thank you so very much, Michael.
Thank you.
Mark Linsday, CNC, for the microphone found. There you go. This is where my heart is breaking too. Man, we need sound. That's what we need, definitely.
Yes.
Thank you. And James Anthony has a request. I would love a reaction to the band. Yes.
I have so much to discover, and I know you're all just aching to get to the next band. I promise it's coming. I don't plan to settle in one rock genre yet, and I plan to keep taking my little exploratory feelers out in different directions. And some of you said you should be more organized and systematic. Probably at some point I will take a systematic approach, but right now I'm just enjoying this whole, you know, tasting of the smorgasbord in front of me, and that's what it's going to be for a while. And eventually I'll decide, okay, do I need to become more systematic and go historical one after the other? I agree, that's probably a wonderful approach. but I'll see how it develops. How does it feel to me? How does it go?
So James
So many
says,
more coming in.
James says, please do a reaction of yes, James, yes, it's definitely on the list because they are indeed a milestone in the history of the rock music. So I can assure you that yes is going to come, definitely.
G. Davis, 7362. Thank you.
Thank you, Davis.
And Colin Barley says, I would love for you to explore the entire album, The Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd, and Mike Oldfield's Tubular Bells and Omadon. Okay.
I am very familiar, Colin, with well, of course, Pink Floyd and the Dark Side of the Moon, but Mike Oldfield as well. Mike Oldfield is just amazing, and I know and I fully agree with you. Michael is a must for Amy, and Michael will come. John Vassie says, yeah, I'm in, add to the fund.
Thank you, John.
Thank you so very much, John.
I saw a comment a little while ago that caught my eye. It's just a curious little question. Somebody asked me, did I have any preconceived ideas, preconceptions about metalheads? I guess I didn't even know there was a term metalheads. I did have preconceived ideas about rock and metal music. I knew they were probably ignorant preconceptions. I wasn't holding tightly to them, but you know, if you don't know something, you kind of form a picture and don't know what you're talking about. But as far as the people consuming it and listening to it, I guess I never thought about who they were or what they were into, so I can't say that I had any preconceptions about it.
Yes, so this is the heart of our project here, and our desire is indeed for it to grow. And the purpose, the first purpose, the most important purpose is education. Because yes, we do love music, but I read so many comments, especially commenting on her first listen to Stairway to Heaven and Hey You and She's Living Home. So many of you said, I have been listening to this song for the past 30, 40, 50 years. But now, after watching this, after listening to your input and what you gave me, I can listen to this song anew, fresh. Isn't that amazing? Some of you said, oh boy, I envy you. I would like to be able to listen to this song for the first time again. But maybe this project will indeed give all of us this opportunity to get a, well, not a first listen, but a fresh taste of the songs and of the music that we love and cherish so dearly.
Chip Sunday, thank you. And Jake Willis says, we are all music lovers. It is amazing how vibrations can invoke so many emotions and leave an impression on our lives. My 2 cents is that blues is a foundation of rock and deserves a listen. Happy exploring, friends. Thank you. You're probably right. I know that blues kind of influenced jazz, and probably also I keep reading on these comments that blues is kind of where rock found its roots out of. So I'm sure I will go back there at some point.
Donig187 says, check out the disturbed version of Sound of Silence live on Conan if you again a bit of time to do so. Thank you. That's a good hint, and thank you very much, John Thompson for your contribution. Much appreciated. Going back to to the purpose of this channel. Our vision is to grow it. And our vision is to have here, well, Amy is planning to go in different directions first, to get a bit of taste of, let's say, every genre within the rock music, because this will help her to get an idea, a general overview, before she will start to go deeper in each of them. And yes, we are thinking and we are brainstorming about doing entire albums, because just like so many of you pointed out about when we did Hey You, why did we, well, why did I, because it was me, right, who said Hey You. Definitely I could have picked up Comfortably Numb, definitely, because that's another masterpiece which stands on its own. But I felt that Hey You is better for Amy as the first Pink Floyd song. Maybe not all of you agree with me, but that's how I felt. But I knew, and all of you who said that are perfectly right. It's, you cannot understand one song from The Wall if you just pull it out from there and look at it. That's why she was, you could see that she was a bit confused. She was not sure what is he talking about here? What does he mean there? And I was smiling, and I knew, well, of course you don't understand, but it's okay. It's okay. It's fine. It's okay.
It's like taking a paragraph out of the middle of a long chapter book and trying to make sense of it. Well, if it's very finely written, you can enjoy so much just in that paragraph, even if you don't know all the story around it. So I knew, and he told me it's going to have its limitations, but that's okay. I don't mind. I don't mind coming at it unknowing and a little bit lost, because it gives a different perspective than maybe I would have experienced otherwise.
Thank you, Lee Kennison, for your help. So excited to follow your journey. I want to say a special thank you for Lee. You are one of the first with us when we started this channel, and we could see, reading your comments, that you're doing your best to advise us in so many ways, from so many different perspectives, with this project, and we really appreciated, and we are really appreciating your effort that you put in for us with your comments and your input. Thank you so very much.
Okay, I see some more interesting comments. Someone says, where did it go? Oh, tell us about the love of my life harp conversation that led to the first video.
All right, yes. Grand Theft Manual, is it V or 5 Roman? I don't know. Anyway, you are one of the first who are with us from the beginning of this channel. Yes, but before we do that, before I'll tell you about that, we want to say a special thank you to Denitz Yaltin. I hope I pronounced right. I don't know.
I don't know. Both a contribution to your microphone fund and a request for your enjoyment to Lorena McKennett's Caravanserai from Nights from the Alhambra live performance. Okay. That's an interesting one. I haven't heard that suggestion yet. So
no,
that'll go on my list. Thank
definitely.
you.
Thank you. So why did I choose for her in the heart conversation? Why did I choose for her Love of My Life to begin with? And She's Leaving Home. Indeed, it was for the harp, but not only, because we all know that these two pieces are just masterpieces, both Love of My Life and She's Leaving Home. I cannot say that Love of My Life is a good song to start with the Queen journey, because as so many of you said, Queen is a genre in itself, right? I mean, you can listen to Love of My Life, or you can listen to The Millionaire Waltz, or to Bohemian Rhapsody, or you can listen to Hammer to Fall, right? So different. But it was harp, and it was Freddie's voice, of course, and his genius in the way he wrote this piece of music. And then with She's Leaving Home, I feel that She's Leaving Home is a good song to represent Beatles. That's my opinion. To represent maybe, of course, Beatles wrote different types of music. That's true. So it goes the same as with Queen. So it's not so much to represent Beatles music, but their genius, right? Their genius. And so we were talking, and I told her, let's start with a piece of music which has harp. And she said, you mean rock?
Yeah.
And I said, yeah.
I told you, I had some preconceptions about rock music.
I said, yeah. So I said, she was confused, and she said, did rock musicians use harp? And I said, not only that, but they used it in a brilliant way. In a brilliant way. And you will see. Of course, I don't know harp. And of course, I don't know, as I said, music as she does. Of course, I don't. But I knew how harp perfectly fits into these two pieces of music. Perfectly fits. And so I said, you will see two masters using harp. Two masters which they're not harpists, right? But they're artists, they're composers, they're amazing musicians. And you will see them using harp, an instrument that it's not their instrument, but simply because they are at that level of creativity, they're doing an amazing job. And you could see her reaction, right?
Some others coming in here.
Yes.
Peter Boven?
That's Germany.
Yeah, that's German. Hi, Peter. Thank you. And Jay Morn.
+1 for Lorena McKennitt.
Thank you. There was another question which was interesting to me. Someone, I don't remember who, it was a ways up the stream here, asked, what was the first piece of music that made me cry? Well, ever since I can remember as a child, my family had, well, first it was a record player, LPs, and that sat in the living room, and we would turn on different music and listen to it, and I remember certain records that would be put on, and I would go adjust the volume so it's not too loud, so that I could put my ear right against the speaker, because there were certain sounds I was searching out in the whole orchestral sound. I wanted to hear a certain instrument. So I very early had this desire to go towards certain sounds, and they gave me certain emotions, but usually it wasn't the sort of feeling of making me want to cry. It was more this sort of wonder, like, what a sound, or this feeling of just exhilaration and being uplifted. The first time I remember crying with a piece of music was actually in my teens. I was at a music summer academy, and we had a research project, and we were supposed to be listening to certain things, and it was at this university, and there was, of course, the university library, and I was in the library doing research on these musical things, and listening and figuring out what my assignment and stuff. And one of the pieces that I listened to was a recording on an old LP. I don't even remember which conductor, which orchestra, which group, but it was Bach, My Heart Ever Faithful. And somehow in that library with the headphones on, I was surprised at myself. I had never cried with music before. I had had all sorts of wonderful emotions, but it had never made tears come out of my eyes. That one did, and that experience, I still remember it. It completely took me off guard. I did not expect it. I had never experienced that before, and it's still a very special memory to me. We have some more. We have some more comments. Conrad Tomala, thank you. And Jack Kangas, Mike Fund, curious. I tend to think of some rock as vocal poetry presentations rather than instrumental. Thoughts on how you would approach and analyze? That's an interesting comment. And again, I'm not familiar enough with rock and metal to really be able to give an in-depth response to that. But I did notice that with Metallica, the words that were such a significant part of the artistry and the shaping of the ideas in the piece. And I guess that's something that I should keep in mind as I continue, because you might have a point there.
Okay, I have two interesting questions here. Green Z says, Vlad, with the experience and passion you already possess, how do you resist influencing Amy as she takes a song you love in for the first time? Well, actually, you see, it's not something that I would like to do, because I know that if I would have her sit down to listen to the song before and tell her what I see, I would spoil the whole thing. Why would I do that? Because that would be a lose-lose for everybody, for herself, for you, for me. That would ruin the entire purpose and the experience and the idea of this community and of this experiment that we're doing here. So no, I'm not tempted. To the contrary, I keep my mouth shut, and I want to sit down and to watch her and to listen to what she sees and what she says. It's an experience for me, and definitely I don't want to mess it up by giving her my thoughts. And anyway, my thoughts are definitely not on the level of her, and
they're different.
Different perspective
Actually,
altogether.
sometimes I feel like his insights are better than mine, because he's so familiar with it. But I guess it's good to have, well, after we make a recording, that's when the conversation fun starts. And we're talking about this piece for days, and you all should be jealous of it, because it's fascinating. As once we get it published, we just sit, we watch the comments come in, we watch what you all say, how you respond, and at the same time we're sitting here talking about it ourselves, and what I said that was interesting to him, and then I'm listening to what he says and what it means to him, and I'm like, oh man, I treated that rather harshly this time, didn't I?
The conversations afterwards that we have, and especially around your comments, are a delight. I'm sorry we cannot share this with you. We would, but yeah. There's no way to do that. Another interesting comment here that I wanted to address anyway is I want to see Amy go to a heavy metal concert. Now, I will have to tell you something. Maybe some sort of a confession, maybe. You might be surprised to hear that I have never been to a metal concert. Never. I've been to symphonic concerts, but I've never been to a metal concert. And why? It's not because I look down to them or... No, nothing like that. it's just the way I am. The music is the experience that the music in itself gives me is more than enough. It's much more than enough. Of course, I watch live performances of all the songs that I love, right? And I am aware how a concert goes. And I try to imagine myself there, and I just couldn't. I don't know how I would be able to get the music in. I don't know. It's just me. I'm not saying that don't go, it's bad, or no, nothing like that. It's just me. Amy, I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know.
Actually, let me tell you this. She has a sister who is very much into rock music, believe it or not, and she goes to rock concerts.
She lives in another state. So,
Yeah, but
I've never been really exposed by her interest, you know?
and so Amy at the rock concert, I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not saying never. I feel like if I were to go right now, I don't feel like I would be able to appreciate it. I know myself. I know my personality and my way of relating to things, and maybe at some point in the future I'll try it. I'm not saying I shouldn't, but I feel like right now it probably wouldn't be terribly helpful to me as I try to step into and explore this. So that's just kind of how it is right now. Not shutting it down.
Grand Theft Manuel asks, who are Vlad's top 3 bands artists? Oh, that's a hard one. I assume that you are asking me about rock music. That's what I assume. It's I'm not sure I can answer this question. Okay, definitely Pink Floyd, definitely Beatles, definitely. But then when I think, oh, okay, the third one, I'm not saying Floyd over Beatles or the other way around. No, I'm just saying, okay, one of them would be Floyd, one of them is Beatles, but what about the third one? Because there's so many, you know. When I go to the third one, my mind goes actually to different songs and albums rather than a certain band. And probably during this journey, you will figure out which are some of my favorite songs and bands as well. As we said, and Amy said several times, and we wrote in some of the comments, in response of some of the comments, we are keeping our eyes open to your suggestions. There are so many, right? The list. I mean, Amy was talking about the list. It's just I started to type first, and then I said, okay, I can't type so much, so I just started to take screenshots and save the comments as screenshots. Yeah. With right now it's kind of busy a little bit. The first one that we chose from your recommendations was Nightwish. It was it's a kind of a sensitive experience at this moment. We do not, I never listened to Nightwish. Look, I never listened to Nightwish in my life. It was the first time for me when I listened to Nightwish. But when I saw it coming, I started to listen before she did. I started to listen to Nightwish, you know, to understand. I started to read and right? And then, of course, she was reading the comments, and then she said, look, so many. So it seems that so many people, they want this, and they are kindly asking me for this, so maybe we should do this. And, well, okay, I mean, at the end of the day, it has to be your decision, I said. And don't get me wrong, it was a very good experience.
It was. I learned a lot by listening to it. I said in the video that I would give Nightwish another chance, but right now I feel like it's going to be a ways down the road before I'm ready to try that again, because, should I say I was very bored?
Yeah, it's what you feel. Look,
I was very bored.
guys, you already figured out that this channel is all about sincerity, openness, 100% pure glass. You see everything. The moment we start cheating, the whole experiment goes away, and it's going to be a waste. It makes no sense. So Amy is telling you exactly what she felt.
When I was doing my first listen, I could not wait for it to be over. I wanted to treat it fairly, and I feel like I did treat it as fairly as I was able to do. But it wasn't for me. That doesn't mean that, okay, somebody else who loves it isn't supposed to love it. No, if you love it, fine. But it really didn't do it for me.
But it was a good experience, and I could see this coming sometime in the future, because as we said, Amy wants to first go and get a taste of every direction. And Nightwish is probably, if I'm thinking of other bands or other songs, which I can put in kind of the same category, is probably a good representative of that type of music, which again, none of us say is bad. And those Nightwish army, they're low-level people, they don't understand it. No. If it works for you, if it fits in your life, in your experience, if it expresses yourself, if you can identify and you find yourself there, it's perfect. Go for it. Amy is making an analysis of the music itself. But the relevance, how the music is relevant or irrelevant for each person, that's a different story. John Lennon can be relevant for some people. Does that mean that John Lennon is bad? No. We all know that John Lennon was a genius. But his music is irrelevant for some people. It's fine. It's perfectly fine. So we are not sorry. It was a great experience because Amy got a taste of that direction.
Yes, it was good for me. And I'm glad that I did it. I'm also glad that, you know, there's a lot more than that.
There is, definitely. And you will see, well, actually we're planning the moment this live will come to a close and will be up probably in a few minutes. I don't know exactly how long it will take.
Somebody was asking earlier, when is our next announcement?
Yeah,
our right after this
next
live.
Announcement will come right after the next live.
This live,
yeah. Right? And it is something that some of you suggested. Maybe you will smile, but it is one of these directions where she needs to go. She needs to look into to understand another side of the rock music, and I hope you will enjoy it. I did enjoy it a lot. We will publish the next two at Virgin Rock right after this live, and as we are live right now, I can tell you, actually she already said in the announcement that we already shot the first listen to that particular song.
Yeah.
It was an amazing experience for both of us, and now she will take time as usual, some days, to dig deep into it and come back to all of us with what she will find inside, deep inside of that song, and so it will go. But of course, our yes, somebody, so many of you are saying, what about Tool? Please do Tool, please do. Yes, Tool will come. Tool will come, definitely, because I know it has to be here. I know that Amy has to look into this music as well, because it is a very interesting music. And so, one other thing that we wanted to tell you is that we are planning to expand and diverse the content of this channel. Diversify. I'm not a native English speaker, right? So I'm sorry. I don't want to offend English language.
No, it's fine.
So we really want to encourage you to keep on writing to us, because we, as you already saw by now, we already implemented some of your suggestions. None of us did this before, so we are really new. This is our first live. I am the one who is doing the shooting. I am the one who is doing all the technical, the video editing, everything, because of course he doesn't have time for that. And I'm looking and I'm reading all your suggestions, and I'm trying to put them all together and to get a vision of how would this channel be more efficient to do what we all, the entire community here at Virgin Rock, want to. So please continue to give us your suggestions, not only about what music she should approach, what bands or songs, but also from the technical perspective. Maybe I'm sure that there are so many of you out there which have much more experience in doing this than any of us here or both of us together do.
I've noticed a couple comments along the way saying start a Patreon account. I haven't started a Patreon account, but I do have a Ko-fi account, which is kind of like Patreon. So if you're looking for something like that, I do have a Ko-fi link under each video. So just to let you know, maybe at some point I will go to Patreon as well, but for now at least I have Ko-fi.
Yes, we started Ko-fi. We started a Facebook page. We started an Instagram account. If you want, you can go there as well. But you have to keep in mind, we started this journey 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
3 weeks.
That's all.
And what we did so far, not only what you see, what she did, which is an amazing work, and it takes a lot of time. I promise, it takes a lot of time, because obviously it's not the first hearing. It's so easy to do a first hearing, especially for a musician who can immediately pick up things, right, and just tell. But then we need more. I want more. I want more than that. And I know and I imagine immediately all the other beautiful people, music lovers out there, they would enjoy just like myself. They would enjoy much more, so why not? And so she spends hours digging, searching, looking into the music score and thinking and analyzing, and at the same time it's the editing and the technical side. And so in this 3 weeks time we were maxed out. We did all that we could to set up everything to the point where we are right now. But again, your suggestions. I see that Lee says Patreon will allow you to post videos that are blocked on YouTube. Really? I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. That could be worth something.
Did they have a player embedded? That would be awesome. That would be awesome, because we had something in our minds. I won't tell you what.
Yeah,
but
we had an idea, and we were like, this would be so nice to do for our donors and the close community, but
it won't be possible on YouTube.
Cannot work on YouTube. So
because you see, with she's leaving home, we got in trouble. The moment we uploaded the video, YouTube blocked it. No way. And so we had to file, how's it called?
A dispute.
A dispute, right. We had to open a dispute, and we had to write them, and then of course they pass it to the copyright owners, and then eventually they release the video because it's obvious it's for educational purposes. But we understood that it's so easy to get in trouble, and so the idea that that we have right now to implement here for you definitely cannot work on YouTube. It cannot. But thank you so very much for this tip. We will definitely look into Patreon, because I was exploring some other possibilities, but they didn't.
We're looking at Vimeo and what Vimeo's restrictions are, which they also have copyright restrictions, but I don't know how seriously they're enforced or anything. So we're working. We sit in the evenings and we talk together about all these wonderful ideas, and we're just trying to figure out how can we best do it so that we can share it with all of you. And there are all kinds of ideas that hopefully we'll be able to develop and implement in a way that is rewarding for everybody.
So thank you for this tip. We will definitely look into it, and hopefully we will find these ways. We will find a way in which we will be able to implement this idea, which I bet you will enjoy, because I would enjoy big time, big time. Somebody says, Vlad, will you be joining Amy for future episodes, especially on bands or artists that you may not be familiar with? I don't think so, because...
Well, he might come in feature from time to time.
Yeah, but
probably it'll be mostly me.
Because this is Amy's experience, and I don't want to interfere in any way. I just don't.
Someone says, we could all just come over and hang out. No restrictions on that.
Oh, there you go.
That would be fabulous.
That would be something, and maybe we will find some event,
some way to
get together,
some community hangout or something that would be interesting.
That would be awesome. Maybe we will find some musical event somewhere in the proximity of some of us where we could meet and hang around for a little while, listen to some music, exchange some ideas. That would be really, really awesome.
Says I'll bring my drum set and PA system. Woo!
We'll bring a harp. Maybe even two. Yeah.
You know, there is a piece of music written for harp and percussion. I've never actually played it, but it's a fairly well-known new-ish piece. I can't even remember the name, but we might be able to do something.
Yeah, this is one of the harps that she has. Maybe one day we will show you the entire forest of harps that are there in the studio. John Vassi says, come to Europe. Yes, we will. Definitely. And probably sooner than later. We don't have a plan right now. But we will let you know when we will come to Europe, because, well, we have plans for Europe, right? Europe means music and a long history of music. And we will definitely go together to Europe, and we will have some experiences there, and we are planning to share these experiences with you. I guess that's it.
That's kind of what we had in mind to share with you today. I've enjoyed this. My eyes have been glued on the screen here so much I've hardly made eye contact with you. But I'm trying to read and follow.
We will definitely go through all your messages.
Do a concert in Wales, play harp and talk. I have been to Wales for a harp event a few years back, and it was incredible. It was the Welsh International Harp Festival, and it went on for a whole week, and oh man, there were harps everywhere, and harpists from all around the world. I do hope to go back sometime in the future. Let's see, what else here? I'm looking. Some videos of rock classics arranged for harps. I've seen several of you mention that. Yes, I love that idea. As you know, I am very new to the rock scene, and I really don't know much about arranging rock music for harp, although I know that there are some harpists who actually, that's their whole career, is rock music and stuff like that. So I do plan to do some special things for you all at some point, but I need a little more time to dig in and get familiar so that I don't do a horrible job of it.
Yes, here's a comment. Drink some wine in closing. Well, we don't have wine, we don't drink wine, but we have something else. We have a very special drink, which is ginger ale, and definitely we will drink some with you to celebrate
To you all, and to the entire community,
to celebrate not only the number, but the community.
Yes, that's really the thing about it.
This is what we really cherish and we love. To you all, the community.
This was fun.
It was.
I enjoyed it. And I look forward to the next time we go live, because I'm sure we will.
Thank you so very much.
Keep your eyes out.
Mm-hmm.
We have the new announcement coming up in just a few moments.
Yes, thank you for being with us during this celebration. It was fun, it was good. As we said, we're going to go through all these comments right after we finish, and we're looking forward to meet you again. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.